Welcome to the Royals Talk, a series of talks hosted by Reading Royals Futsal Club, who have brought together figures from the world of futsal and elite sports to share their experiences, insights, knowledge and stories.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending another The Royals Talk. Today we've got the great honor to have two GB athletes, ex-GB athletes. Thank you very much for spending the time with us and to share your stories. Today we've got Katie Skelton. She was part of the GB synchronized swimming team. Thanks, Katie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Very welcome. And also we've got Marcus Bateman from GB rowing team. Thank you very much, Marcus.
It's my pleasure, Fernando.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a great night again. We've got example like last time. We've got two players from Reading Royals to make some questions. We've got Dominic Pearce and Cristina Sarmiento. So they're gonna just take over with some questions for you guys. And then like last time, if you have any questions, you can put on the chat, you can write on the chat, you can raise your hand, and then you can ask yourself. You are more than welcome to ask yourself. You can open the camera as well. Don't be shy, and then that's it. Okay. So now I'll pass to Dom and Christina.
Hey guys.
Hey,
so just feel free actually just sort of talk to us a little bit more about yourselves, introduce who you are and like your sort of experience.
Let's go first.
You go first.
Okay. So hi, I'm Katie. I was a synchronized swimmer for about 25 years. Started when I was 7 years old. And actually one thing we share in common is my club called Reading Royals. So great name. I started when I was 7 years old up until I was 18. And then my sports are minority sports. So I was lucky enough when I got to 18 that we got the bid for the London Olympics, where then they pumped in lots of funding for all sports and wanted a representation for all sports at the Olympic Games in 2012. So then I could then become a funded full-time athlete, which I did just turning 19, and then was a full-time athlete for 5 years, competed at World Championships, European Championships, and then my dream goal was the 2012 Olympic Games. So that's kind of a short bit about my career and how I got there.
Cool. I mean, I started rowing quite late on in my sporting career. Normally rowers they go through kind of like the Etons and all the public schools, but I went for a world-class start scheme, which was set up basically mimicking what the Australians set up for Sydney in 2000. And this was with a goal of producing athletes for London 2012. So what they did, they went into universities and they marked the height on the door. And for the men, it was 6'4". So the GB coach in the room, and everyone that was above that mark, he would come and approach and said, "Look, would you like to come and down and have some testing?" And I was a track and field athlete, so I did 400, 800 meters, and 1500. I said, "Yeah, why not?" I was injured at the time, so I was pretty fed up with track and field in that moment, and I did all the testing and beat the likes of Redgrave, Pinsent, and all their power tests. So leg push, arm pull, arm press, and then they did like a swaying bike. So cycling as well as arms, and you have to go up in cadence, 2 pips every 30 seconds until you blew up. And I kind of got the record in that, and so that was like my starting into the sport. It was wasn't by design. I didn't love rowing at all when I was younger, but I loved football. I love athletics. Knew about Pinsent, but my kind of heroes were kind of Seb Coe and all the athletics within the Olympics. But always had a dream to go to the Olympics. So I felt that rowing would be my best option, being I was 6'5", had all the strength and endurance background from the athletics, and that was my pathway into the sport.
Okay, so Marcus, you kind of touched on my next question there a bit. Who are each of your biggest role models and why?
So for me, I mentioned I remember kind of Seb Coe in the Olympics, Olympic Christie. It wasn't Redgrave or Pinsent. I remember Michael Johnson in the 400 meters. So it was very much an athletic background. And as a child, I was always looking up to those guys and how they performed, and week in, week out, year on year, Olympics on Olympics, they would always perform. And that's what inspired me to get into sport.
I think my sporting hero for synchro is a woman called Gemma Menguel. She's one of the top athlete in Spain. And synchronized swimming in Spain is huge. So she's sort of like the David Beckham in Spain for their sport. So very well known. But yeah, she's a 3-time Olympian, world champion medals, lots of Olympic medals and things. And one of my coaches coached the Spanish team for the Olympics, 2004 Olympics. So we trained a lot with the Spanish team. So we'd go over and do a couple of weeks with them. So I got to see her train. So she was really inspiring because she trained so hard in synchro. Her creativity and style, when I'd watch her, I'd just be like, wow, I want to be like you. Being able to see her train at the level she did, it made you realise how hard you've got to train to make it to the top. So she was, my role model.
Dom, am I good to go now?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, Katie, you were saying now that you look up to Gemma Menguel, yeah? Like she was one of the inspiring people for you. So did you have the chance to meet other synchro athletes like her, or maybe Ona Carbonell? I think she was also on the 2012. She competed as in a team and also in a duo. Yeah. So
in the duet. Yeah. I was really lucky actually to train alongside both of them, which when you're in the pool and you just feel like a little fish against when these guys were, Olympic medalists.
Yeah.
And, they're sort of giving you corrections and helping you sort of develop in our routines. It's amazing. So we, like I say, because my coach was the Spanish coach, we were so lucky to work really closely actually with the Spanish. We actually trained, they have a sporting excellence school where the Spanish team train, so they go to school and they train there. So we spent a couple of weeks living a life of what it'd be like if you were a full-time athlete in Spain, which was really good. And they spent, because they were like at the top of their game and we were coming in, so they're ranked number 2 or 3 in the world and we were like 8th or 9th, so we could learn a lot from them. And they would spend a lot of time talking to us about how they got to where they got to, because they definitely came up the rankings as well. So they were really good and spent time talking to us about how we can develop and given us tips and how to stay motivated and things, which was good.
That's very nice.
All right, so obviously both of the sports that you guys have chosen require a lot of synchronization, a lot of like excellent teamwork. How do you guys build relationships with your teammates?
For me, it is a love-hate relationship with the guys that we compete with. At the start of the year, everyone's fighting for their spots, so we're kind of competitors from say like September, which is the off season for rowing, all the way up to April, which is final trials, and that's probably the hardest race to compete against, is to fight against all your teammates for the spots within the rowing boats and Olympic spots. So there is an internal competitiveness within the team, and everyone wanting to strive to be the best and be alpha male. But then once they had a boat selection, we had 3 main races before the World Championships. So from April on until the September, we would kind of it would be us against the world. So we would take on the Germans, the Italians, the Americans, Kiwis, the Aussies, and we would kind of create that kind of mentality of it was us fighting for each other, and we'd all look each other in the eye and be like, right, I'm going to pull as hard as possible from the start right the way to the finish, and I know the guy behind me is going to do the same. I know the guy in front of me is going to do the same. So it was kind of us against the world mentality of what Mourinho kind of brings to his team and his squads.
Yeah,
Right.
we're similar in the same, like, obviously we have 8 girls that are in a team, so, but to begin with, you are fighting to get into that team. So again, you're competing against your teammates, but then at the same time, you have one goal together. So kind of, once the team is selected, and generally you stick with the same 8 and you consistently train the same 8, you only get reserves come in if, say, someone's injured. But it's very much we're one unit, and the routine is judged. So if one person is not looking right and does something wrong in the routine, you're all affected. So you've all got to pull your weight, and you know that each one of you, each 8 of the girls, is going to do their best. And we do like things like lifts, so you throw girls out and things. So you've got to be able to trust that you're all going to push at the same time and put your effort in, because if it could go wrong, someone's landing on your head and it could cause injury. But yeah, so we do things like work with our psychologists on our personality traits, on how people like to be, how people receive feedback and give it back. Because when you're in the water together, you've got the coach, but we can also say, oh, I think we need to be in line. So we do formations like patterns. So again, we can give each other feedback to make it work, not just rely on the coach. So it's good to know, well, I know she doesn't like feedback in this way, so I'll do it away, so we do a lot of that work with the psychologist, so that we basically can get the best out of each other, so that we can achieve the main goal that we all want to. And we do things like team days as well, just for a bit of fun to keep the spirit going. And we lived with we'd live with different girls. I lived with 3 of the athletes out of the 10 in the squad, so you become very close and build relationships up quite quickly. And spending we train 7 till 5 every day, so you end up knowing each other very well by the end of it. So you quickly build up close-knit relationships that actually last a lifetime in and outside the pool. So yeah, that's sort of how it worked for us.
Yeah.
All right. And what is each of yours proudest sporting moment? Doesn't necessarily have to be with the Olympic sport. If
I think for me, it's the Olympics. When I at 18 to 19, I chose to not, had a place at university, but I chose not to do that. And I chose to put everything into the main goal, go to the Olympics, but that was still 5 years away. So I moved moved to a different area. I gave up going to uni. So my whole passion and dream was for the Olympics. Obviously we had Europeans, World Championships and other small competitions, but that was the big dream. And I think when you were younger as well, like Marcus said, you watch the Olympics on the TV and it's every sort of athlete's dream to be able to do that. So I think, and because we had selections year after year and selections from the squad to make the teams, and the Olympics being in London, it was a dream to come true. So yeah, I think once I made the Olympics and competed, that for me is probably, yeah, my most proud moment.
Yeah, I'd probably say that the pinnacle of any kind of amateur sport is the Olympics. But I probably wouldn't have said this in the moment when I was competing, because I was so engrossed with just winning. But it is the friendships that you make off the water, and it's international friendships of getting to travel the world and be blessed to be a sponsored athlete through lottery funding. It's more the journey, and the Olympics is always the end goal. But then once that end goal is achieved, then it's the friendships that kind of keep you kind of grounded, and they stay with you, and all the medals, you could win all the medals, but those friendships that do mean more to you, well, to me anyway, and then the medals that just sit in a sock drawer, and they're just there's just a bit of medal at the end of the day. I mean, you do your blood, sweat and tears, and I wouldn't have said this when I was competing, but looking back on it now, I'd say it's making those friendships and those lasting ones.
Right. What were your reactions when you were first told that you were going to represent your country? How was, when you were told?
Yeah, I remember being just on cloud 9, and again, like you say, it's the friendship and stuff. So when I knew the girls that I'd been training for, we generally, by the time we got told, it'd been the 8 that we'd been training. So to know that we were all going to go to the Olympic Games, I think I felt really proud of us all. I felt, what I dreamt for and all those sweat and tears, and it made everything worth it. Like I say, the journey is what you do day in, day out. This is just the ending. So it just made all the sacrifices, all the hard work that you'd kind of done from a child, and even like your parents helping you take you to and from the pool, or everyone that helped you get there. I felt really sort of like done it for the club that had got me there. I just it's quite overwhelming actually. I remember ringing my family and ringing my grandma, and sort of she was like, "Oh, I'm getting teary." It's like, seeing the 20 years of hard work that had gone into that one moment of saying you've made it to the Olympics, that actually there was 20 years worth of the journey just for that one call. That actually, so quite emotional and proud moment.
I mean, for me, it was getting to that start line, getting the kit, getting kitted out, being told you're in the team, blah blah blah. It was getting to that start line fit, and we did all the training camps in Portugal, and we didn't read papers and didn't listen to the media. We didn't have Twitter. We had nothing. We just kept in a little bubble. And then when it hits you is when you arrive at the venue. That's when it's like, oh wow, this is serious. this is like we just turned up for a training day, and it was the first day. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't expecting anyone to be at the venue, but there were like 40,000 along the bank, and they're all cheering us as we get off and walk to the boat bay. I'm like, oh wow, this is like real hairs on the back of your neck moment, where that's when it really sunk in for me. It wasn't getting the kit, it wasn't being tired. I just didn't believe it until you actually are there at the venue.
Yeah, for me, the Olympics is the most top. So if I get that call, I would be crazy. The question also is, what makes the Olympic Games like so different to the other international competitions? What do you feel it makes the difference? What makes the Olympic difference?
I think for me, so World Championships, we swim, we compete with aquatics. So when we go to World Championships and Europeans, we will be there for 10 days or so. And over that 10 days, there'll be the synchronized swimming competition, there'll be the swimming, the diving and the water polo. So I'm used to going to World Championships, European Championships, and being alongside the aquatics. And then all other international competitions, they are just synchronized swimming competitions, where I found for me at the Olympics, it was all sports. And although, like say rowing, we were obviously competing in different areas, but you know, I would never have been in a holding camp or Olympic village with some of the sports like archery or things like that. So I would chat to people and, you know, ask them what sport they were doing. And it's a sport I'd never been able to compete alongside. So I think that was it, being alongside like the boxing team and things, and getting to meet lots of different athletes in that 3-week period where you're all competing. I'd never experienced that. And World Championships is huge with the audience and things, but it was obviously even bigger with the London Olympics. And I guess the other difference is at World Championships and European Championships, you stay in hotels, but you'd never stay in a village, where at the Olympics, I stayed and lived in the village for 3 weeks, where I'd never experienced that before. So that was a real different experience to say, right, you're going to live in a village for 3 weeks with all the other athletes and then compete. Normally it's have a hotel room for a week and you don't see that many people, and then you go and compete. So it's quite a different experience, one that I'd never really experienced before.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is all the different sports coming together, and all the different countries that is kind of united, and it is like a festival of sport where everyone gets on, and it is kind of like a uniting the whole world, and everyone becomes watching various sports that they wouldn't every 4 years. And there's so many sports that rely on the Olympics as their pinnacle. So the athletics, the swimming, the rowing, and I think it's really important for those type of sports to be involved in Olympics. So for me, that's the specialness of the Olympic. I think it kind of is losing that and going very commercial with the sponsors and chasing the ticket sales. So I just hope that the Olympics keeps that purist message of stronger, higher, faster.
Going to make the coaches happy here and bring up training. What would a typical training week have looked for you guys when you were competing?
So typical week for the team would be Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 7 o'clock, and do an hour of stretching and mobility and flexibility from 7 to 8. And then 8 till 10, we would do swimming. So a swimming coach would come in and we'd do 2 hours of swimming, and that would be helping our stamina. And then from then we do another couple of hours of synchro training, have an hour break, it's 2 hours depending on the season where we are, and then we get back in the pool from 2:30 till 5. So the day would consist from 7 till 5, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the mornings started off with strength and conditioning. So we'd do 7 till 9, 9:15 with our strength and conditioning coach. And then we'd go back into the water, a couple of hours in the water, break, and then another 2 or 3 hours in the afternoons, again, 7 till 5. And then on Saturdays, we all quite liked, because we'd go to Bishop Abbey, which is probably where Marcus trained a lot, in English Institute of Sport. The facilities were really good there. So we would do 4 hours at the gym on a Saturday, which we loved, because it was just a nice day to train but not have to get in the water. So but yeah, generally 7 till 5 Monday to Friday, and then morning at the gym on a Saturday morning. So and because we all were in the same team, it applied for all of us, so the whole squad would have to do, we all did the same. There was no real individual training particularly, so yeah, it was quite intense. It was very tiring. By the time you get to Saturday night and Sunday, I think I'd spend a good 12 hours sleeping and recovering before it all kicked off again on the Monday morning at 7. So, but yeah, we incorporated lots of different training, like I said, swimming, strength conditioning, a bit of dancing and things. So yeah, it was a busy time.
Yeah, our training day would be kind of we'd go down to Bishop Abbey and do our strength and conditioning. So we'll do Olympic lifting first thing in the morning. So it'd be clean squats, deadlifts, bench press, bench pull, and that would be run by EIS, their strength and conditioning coach. And then we'd have second breakfast either at Caversham or at my rowing club, Leander. And that would consist of kind of eggs, bacon, everything, just any calories, because we got 20k on the water, which takes about 2 hours. Have lunch and then do another 20k on the water. That was in the winter where we had big mileage, and then as we went into the racing season, we would have interval training. We'd also have altitude camps. So we'd go to Sierra Nevada in Spain, which is it's about 2,000 meters up in the air. So when you're walking around, you're out of breath, and we would have a couple of days to acclimatize, and then we would be full on training. So 20k's on the ergo, so it'd take about an hour and 15 minutes. If anyone's been on ergo or row machine, you pull in kind of 150s for an hour and 15 minutes. So it's brutal. It is tough training.
Okay, can't wait for Rich and Fernando to introduce that for us. You kind of mentioned before, Katie, I guess this goes sort of to both of you. So you talked about being a sponsored athlete once you sort of made that jump, but beforehand, how were you guys able to strike sort of a balance between like working a job or going to school, as well as obviously training to hone your craft and your sport?
It's difficult because until I became full-time, I was always at school. So you're at the school normal hours, and then we train before school. So I'd be at the pool sort of 6 in the morning doing an hour, then I'd go to school, and then I'd have training again at 7:30. So and you'd have homework and things like that. And actually, I think I've learned over the years I'm better being busy. If I knew I had training at sort of 7:30 and I had homework to do, I'd be like, right, from 4:30 till 6, I'll do my homework and I would get it done, have dinner and go. Where nights where I didn't have training, I'd sort of be like, oh, I'll do it later. So it was quite good actually being busy and having, training, because you think, right, now I've got an hour and a half to do it, I've got to get it done. So, and then the year before I went full time, I actually took a gap year before uni, but I was working to save money and things. So I, worked in the day and I train in the evenings. So it definitely is hard, and I think all athletes will appreciate you've got to be really dedicated and motivated and sort of to be able to fit everything in. So yeah, it was tough, but I think if you sort of schedule it all in, it can work, but it just makes life busy.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest period of any kind of sportsman or sports person's kind of career is that gap between getting funding and performing on a world stage. So at the championships or the Olympics to qualify for that lottery grant. For me personally, I was a lifeguard at the lovely Central Pool in Reading.
So was I.
And basically, I just sit in a chair and collect the wage, and then I'd be able to kind of train and do my stuff around it whenever I could. Yeah. So that was definitely the toughest period of my sporting career. And you get to find grants here and there from either Oxfordshire, so I was in Henley at the time, so I was able to qualify for an Oxfordshire grant, which is about £500 for the year, but it's nowhere near kind of a C grant, B grant, or an A grant at lottery funding. So it is full-time training, and you've got to make a living somehow, some way. So I thought lifeguarding was the easiest way to rest whilst I was training, and just hope no one kind of got in trouble in the pool.
Yeah, Central Swimming Pool actually were very good with helping, because I like I say, I was a lifeguard too, and the year before I made it to be full-time, they were very good in, because it like say, sports cost a lot of money, and things like hiring pools for us were expensive, but they supported me a lot with, I'd lifeguard, and then they'd let me get in the pool, in the diving pit while they're cleaning or whatever, and say, we'll keep an eye on you and stuff. So I was very fortunate to be able to do a bit of training here and there around work in that sense. And because they knew the goal that what I was trying to achieve, they wouldn't charge or things like that. They were always very good at trying to find pool time for me where I could, so I could do that extra training. So when I needed to trial to get into the full-time squad, you know, I was up to a good level, because trying to find pools and the cost of pools is a lot of money. So it's always good when you get community support and people want to try and help you out. So that's good.
I believe everybody enjoys on trainings, and it's not the same being on a training or doing a competition. So, for example, Katie, how do you deal with the pressure before a competition?
So I think when I was in the full-time squad, we would do like mock-up competitions. So we'd practice exactly what would happen when we go to the competition. So for us, there's a lot of prep before. So we actually do about a couple of hours. So say we're competing at 4 p.m, we'd actually do 2-hour training session in the morning to go over things and warm ourselves up. So we would practice that. So on a training day on a Friday, they would say it's competition day. We'd do things like we'd get our costumes on. So I've got it here, but we would wear, when we actually compete, we wear sort of these costumes. So they're quite different to wearing, say, a normal costume. So it's good to practice from the routine in this costume. So you just get to know how it feels. It's not too weighty, but as you can see, there's lots of sequins and stuff. So it's small, finite detail like that we would practice everything. So when it came to the competition, you didn't feel as nervous because you've done the simulation of what it would feel like. I mean, it's obviously, it is a little bit different actually competing, We'd also do like visualization. So with our psychologists, we would sit in a circle and talk about, run through the competition, have your eyes closed as well, and they'd play our music, and we'd visualize a 10 out of 10 performance. That was the aim anyway. And just how you might feel with the crowd being there. So we did different sort of exercises like that, and we'd, especially before we go to competitions, we'd invite audiences. So we'd do shows so that people could come and watch, but it was a good experience for us to know how it would feel. And would you, sort of make the mistakes then, and you can correct them and talk to your coach maybe what happened, what went wrong, so we can improve for when we actually compete. Because it's a bit different when you've got loads of people screaming for you. It can be a distraction if you've not practiced that. That's when you might do something more likely wrong. So it's just to iron out anything. So yeah, a lot of visualization and running through what a competition day would look like. So yeah, so I think by the time I got to the Olympics, I think if I was younger and someone said you're going to compete in Olympic Games, I would have thought, oh my gosh, I'd be so nervous. But I actually wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be, because again, we had trained at the Olympic pool. So we'd done our holding camp there. And so I'd actually swam my routine at that pool quite a lot. So I felt quite familiar. Obviously no one can prepare you for 18,000 people screaming, on a lot of them obviously being home nations, so the crowd was very loud, but I generally felt in control, and I think it's just not letting yourself just stay in focus within that moment. And it wasn't until after I finished competing that I sort of relaxed and thought, now I can take in the crowd. But before then I very much was gameplay and just focus on the job. I know what I'm doing. I've trained this. I know how it should feel. So just do that until the last beat goes, and then you can sort of relax.
Yeah, because the crowd is adding also the pressure. Yeah, because you also have the music, so you have to listen to music and yeah. So we count. So our routines are 4 minutes long, and throughout we're counting 1 to 8. So I know I've never counted so loud in my head for routines, because sometimes memory goes, but I thought I was just so worried about not being able to hear, or the crowd being so loud. I was literally screaming the counts in my head, like concentrating so hard, not letting the home nation put me off. It has to be really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, so same question would go for you, Marcus, as well. How do you deal with the pressure before the competitions?
Yeah, I mean, for me, in training, we would have like a gold medal standard, and we would always be measured on what that time would be, and would give each targets, and we would know what to hit and where we were. But for me, we never knew what the other countries were doing and how fast they were compared to the gold standard. So we would go through like our warm-ups and routines, and probably the night before we would go through our race plan of what we want to execute. And there'll be a cock, so a little guy. He's got to weigh 55 kilos. And if he doesn't weigh 55 kilos, then we starve him until he does weigh 55 kilos. And then basically he runs through the race plan with us. So what we agreed the night before, he will talk us through the actual race. And it would be about executing that perfect race plan in the day. So we would kind of rehearse that like mentally, but what during the moment of the race, and nothing really prepares you for that, and you have to expect everything and anything to happen. Because the Germans, they could be 2 lengths up, or you go through all these different scenarios, and you just have to expect the unexpected and just pull as hard as possible until you cross the line.
Yeah, well, on training we always try to focus on winning, but sometimes we lose. So would you say, do you feel like you learn more from a win or from a lose? Because
Yeah, it's difficult because no one puts the hours and trains as hard as possible to lose. But like you said, you do learn a lot from yourself when you do lose, and you understand what went wrong. Whereas if you do win and it's an easy win, then it can kind of paper over your weaknesses. So we always try to analyze each part of the race, whether we win or lose, and try and keep evolving and developing kind of ourselves as a unit as well as an individual.
yeah, to keep motivated, yeah, even if you lose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you lose, that's easy motivation, but it's when you're at the top, it's a different pressure, and everyone's gunning for you, and it is easier to be the underdog because you have no pressure whatsoever, so you have no expectations, and you just go out and express yourself. Whereas if you're the past champion, then all eyes are on you, and it's a different type of pressure.
Yeah.
And that's why I respect the people that go out and do it over and over again, like Roger Federer or greats like that. Is just like Tiger Woods. Like it's just unheard of. Just people just going out and winning like they're just born to win.
Yeah, no, I don't imagine to be the champion like that. No, too much pressure. I don't want it.
It's tough.
Yeah, Katie, the same question to you.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, our sport's not. It's sort of ranking, so you don't lose or win as such. But for us, we have our eye on the country in front of us and the country behind us. So I guess when we go to competitions, we want to beat the French or whatever. They're the next one for us to overtake or things like that. So, and if that doesn't happen, then that's a kind of similar, I guess, feeling of not achieving your goal or like losing in a way. But again, I think the same. You then go back and you analyse. So we would spend hours sitting watching the other countries' routines and analysing how their routines look. What do they do different to us? How can we beat the French? And things. And then when you do, I think it's important not to like relax and be like, oh, we did that. And then they're just going to come back. They'll be doing the same, watching this, and the next competition going to come back, better. So, I think it's important to, if you don't do as well or whatever, it's good. You can see what you did wrong, but also keep striving to stay either at the top, and because they will be right behind you, looking at how they can beat you. So after every competition, we would analyse the people in front of us and the people behind us and see where we sit and what they're doing and what they're doing, just so that we can always be aware of what these countries are doing and never sort of get complacent and just do what we want. We'd always be looking at actually what do their routines look like and how can we stay above these people and how are we going to get past these. That's kind of how we would deal with getting better or not doing as well, I think.
So you both talked earlier about how your sports are sort of minority sports and everything like that. As a futsal team, I'm sure that's something we can relate to here. How important do you guys think representation in the media and sort of portrayal is to minority sports here in the UK?
Yeah, for me, rowing's a different one. I didn't particularly care about the press. I didn't enjoy the press, and every time that we won a race or something, they would always there to bring us down. So that's why we had a policy of no, we didn't look at any media, we didn't look at Twitter, we didn't look at any kind of social media running up to the racing, and we just didn't want that distraction. I think it keeps the sport pure. I think anything to do with money or professionalism ultimately leads to corruption and ruins the sport. You see that with football, with FIFA, and with VAR. Like, I'm just bored of watching football when it just loses the moment of that emotion where someone scored a goal and you don't know whether it's going to be allowed or not. Like, it just ruins the sport for me. So I don't particularly welcome the media, especially in the UK anyway.
I guess we're always trying to, I guess, promote the sport because not many people know about it, and we want young girls to join. So I guess we want it to be out there, and we want the media to know it and respect it as well, as a sport and stuff. So yeah, I guess we felt we'd done a good job once we got, because we'd never normally had the funding we got in 2007 for the Olympics. We did try to sort of get the sport out in the media so people knew what it was, rather than say I did synchronized swimming and they're like, oh, I don't understand it, what is that? And try and encourage more girls to do it, because in other countries it's a really big popular sport, so we want to grow the sport in our country and get more girls to participate and things. So I do agree, the media can be cruel and things. So it's nice when you get good media and they are promoting your sport in a good way. But again, we've had bad media about, because we wear makeup whilst we compete. So then they sort of say, oh, is it a sport if you're doing that? So there's a balance, isn't there? But for us, I do think it's important for the sport to be promoted in the media so people can see what sport it is and encourage girls to do it, and to grow more clubs, because there's some areas in the country there's not any clubs as well because it's just not known about or whatever. So to grow the sport in the country, I think that's why we would quite like to, get it out in the media or promote the sport at least anyway, for that reason.
That's quite an interesting contrast of answers, actually. I guess that sort of helps. So I've got a follow-up question, which again, sorry, going to be that guy related back to futsal. Do you think that it would be good for the growth of futsal in the UK and generally around the world if it actually became an Olympic sport?
I do. I think it would be better than football in the Olympics. And it was introduced into the Youth Olympics. And I'd like to see it at Rio, given its links with South America and kind of the origins of the sport. And I think it would be more spectators would want to watch it, and there wouldn't be any white elephants with kind of countries hosting the Olympics of being left with a load of football pitches that they don't use. So I think, yeah, I'd definitely like to see it in the Olympics up and coming. But for me, it's promoting it at grassroots. I think if you get the schools on board with futsal, then that's how you'd grow the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be amazing if the sport was in the Olympic Games. I know for my sport, it definitely helps and definitely helps with funding for grassroots, sort of for the England development teams around 13, 14. That I think it helps with the funding and things like that. But yeah, again, it's getting it in the grassroots to be able to then produce the athletes to do it. But I think, yeah, we've always thought at times we've thought synchronized swimming may get taken out of the Olympics, which we've always fought to keep it in because I think it does wonders for the sport. So yeah, 100%. I think it'd be great to get for your sport to be at the Olympics.
Well, that is really connected with the question that I want to make. Is like almost answered actually, but do you think your sports like rowing and also synchronized swimming is getting more popular over the time?
Our sport was definitely, and that sort of ties into with the media, around a couple of years before 2012, where we'd never actually had a full-time squad of synchronized swimmers. We did have some media, media took interest and were promoting the sport. And also when it was promoted well and things, it was really recognised as a difficult sport to do. So, yeah, I think I've lost my point there, but yeah, I lost where I'm going with that. But yeah, I think it is good.
Yeah, well, for example, to me, when I'm watching the Olympics, I like to watch every single sport. So I think it's one of the best moments for people to know new sports or to follow different things that you don't follow, on the rest of the year. And for example, I follow the synchronized swimming in Spain is very popular, like you said, because Gemma Mengual, she's great. Ona Carbonell, she's now leading in Spain. So we know they're going to prepare 4 years for that big competition, and we're all expecting that. So I don't know if you think that makes the sport a bit more popular than it is, like, during the other years.
Yeah, I definitely think so, because it's advertised more, so people then want to say, oh, what's that? Let's see that. And I found after 2012, and even now I say, oh, I was in the Olympics, they say, what sport? And they say, oh, I watched that, and I saw that, oh, I heard about that, or I know what that is. Where actually, before 2007, I think if you said, I was synchronized swimmer, a lot of people say, I don't even know what that is. But actually, we really worked hard on building the profile from 2007 up until the Olympics, and then onwards to really build the profile of the sport, make sure people understand it, make sure people realise that we don't just do float patterns in the water and we train, 10 hours a day to achieve the level we do. So we kind of had to really fight with the media to make sure that our sport was portrayed well, sport, and not that people think, is it even a sport? Because that has been portrayed at times like they don't understand it. So yeah, I think getting it out there and it being at the Olympics, the few years after that, the profile of the sport was a lot higher than it was before, and lots more people watched it. And the Spanish, I don't know if you know, like, there's been a lot of things on Facebook of how they walk on and stuff.
Yeah.
I've clicked and gone, oh, that's the synchronized swimming. How you walk into the office on your first day. And so people are like, oh, it's from this, the synchronized swimming team, things like that, where before people might not have been, recognised what are these girls even doing. So I think we were really proud actually of how we, got our sport to a bit more acknowledgement by the time we got to 2012, and people understanding what it is. So yeah.
No, yeah, it's really artistic and really funny when the competition is over. There's lots of clips.
Yeah, clips all around. If you're a lifeguard having to clear up the changing rooms after synchronized swimming competition, it's not fun because you have hair clips and I don't know if you ever watched synchronized swimming, but when we compete, we wear our hair in a bun, so like ballet dancers, hair's in a bun, and you wear gelatine, so gelatine that you cook with, you put in your hair, so for example, I have a fringe, it will hold, my hair will not move
on the water.
Yeah, 2 hours in the shower afterwards trying to get it out. But yeah, so lifeguards cleaning up change rooms after a competition is trying to get rid of all the gelatine stuck everywhere and hair clips. So yeah.
And then I think for rowing, since 2012, it's got more successful in terms of gold medals in Rio, but in growing the sport, it's just reliant on public schools. I don't think there's more rowing clubs that pop up. It is limited to kind of equipment and access to the water. So you got to be by a river. I think one of the sports is cycling that's really kind of grown in popularity since 2012, and Bradley Wiggins and Chris Hoy. I think that's probably the sport that has excelled, and from a commercial point of view has really done well with Team Sky and various other sponsors, whereas my sport in rowing, they lost their headline sponsor after London, and they never replaced that. So I do worry about rowing as a sport and how it is going to grow, and whether it will go and it will just remain the same.
Well, I believe both of you're not competing anymore. You're both retired yet. But would you like to coach your sport in the future?
Yeah.
Marcus, for example.
I coach. Yeah, so I retired in 2013, soon after the Olympics. And I went back to my club, Reading Royals, which originally went Central Swimming Pool. That was our main hub. Now we do it at lots of different pools around Reading. But I coach. So we have teams, but we can also do duets and solos. So 2 girls swimming together or single girl swimming alone. I've coached over the years a couple of teams. And then I still now, around my full-time job, coach a few duets and solos that are in the sort of junior Great Britain team. So ever since I've retired, I've actually always been coaching, which is nice because I love the sport. I've obviously got a lot of passion for it, but not ready to carry on doing 10 hours a day. So work with the young girls, give them the knowledge. I was very lucky. Again, like I say, my sport never normally would have, I had psychologists, nutritionists. I even had a lifestyle manager, actually, which, that's never really, So I was so lucky to work with lots of experts. So I think it was quite important to be able to give back to my sport and keep it growing. And again, it's still a minority sport, so they still rely on volunteers and ex-swimmers to come back and help with the coaching and things and make up routines. So so I really enjoy coaching now I'm retired.
Yeah, but it's different.
Yeah, it's nice being able to watch the other girls jump in the pool at 6 a.m. and you can stay nice and dry.
Yeah, I don't miss a trainer at all, but
No.
I do mentoring rather than kind of cycle up and down the bank and do coaching. So it's more of a mentor thing. If the athletes aren't getting selected or they've had an injury, or just passing down my experiences and knowledge as an athlete. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, broke a leg before in 2011, and then had my best season. So yeah, it's just going through those little kind of nuggets that I can pass down to athletes that wanted to beat me when they were little.
Mm. Yeah, because I think they look up to you, don't they? When you're young, I remember just a few girls from my club that I thought they were, when I was sort of 10, they were my role models. I didn't know too many international swimmers at that time, but and they'd competed at Commonwealth Games and stuff. And so when they would coach you, you'd sort of be like, oh, this is so cool. And you'd look forward to going to training sessions because, you know, someone at a very high level and what you wanted to achieve. And it was achievable because, you know, it's a girl in your club had done it. So I always remember being really excited and, you know, motivated me to do the sport because I wanted to be like them. So it's nice for the young girls to see people around them and know that it's, you know, it's achievable.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Marcus, you kind of talked about it before with your sort of track and field background, but I'm going to sort of ask you to go into sort of specifics. So, did either of you two do different sports growing up, and do you think they helped you in your chosen sport?
Yeah, I think having a track and field background did help. Definitely with the strength endurance, the ability to train day in, day out, and just put your hand in the candle and see how long you can last for, and that, like, giving yourself that competitive edge. I think that definitely helped. It was kind of quite a steep learning curve when I went into rowing, but those days of kind of the athletics and going on training camps and having that kind of that grit that you needed to train day in, day out and manage your body through the injuries. Yeah, it definitely gave me advantage in that respect.
So I started synchronized swimming when I was 7, but before that, I sort of did swimming lessons and I was doing gymnastics and dancing. And at the time, I was 7 years old and I very much did it as a hobby, you know, once or twice a week alongside dancing and gymnastics. And then it sort of got to, I think it was around 10 where I was starting to have to do synchronized swimming lessons sessions sort of 3 or 4 times a week. So I then had to decide, Mum was like, well, you can't do them all. So which one do you want to do? I chose synchro. But definitely the 3 or 4 years of doing the dancing and gymnastics definitely helped. And we have some girls that actually have kept a bit of dancing. I coach one girl and she's really, really good. And she still does 1 or 2 hours of dancing a week. She's actually a soloist. And that massively helps because it's synchronized swimming effectively is sort of dancing in the water, and especially when you're on your own, it's very creative. And so she is a very good soloist because she's got a really good dancing background as well. So yeah, I think for my sport, and even when I was full-time swimming, we would do dance lessons and work with the diving team and gymnastic teams to work on lifts and how we move in the water. Yeah, I think it's always good having other areas that you can do to help your own sport.
All right. Last sort of one from me. I'll finish on a fun one. Who's the most interesting athlete you got to meet at the Olympics, be it for Team GB or a different country?
Oh, well, for me, it was when I met Greg Rutherford at the closing ceremony, because on the Saturday when he won gold in the long jump, I was outside the stadium, and this one person come up to me and goes, "Oh, can I have a photo?" I was like, "Oh, yeah." I'm in GB must be a Rome fan. And then another person come up, and then another person. By the fourth, they said, "Oh, well done, Greg." I was like, "What?" Oh, and then I looked up, and no joke, there's about 50 people around me, all thinking that I was Greg Rutherford. And there's about 50 people got a photo thinking that it's with Greg Rutherford, but it's with Marcus Bateman, the GB rower. So, and then one of my rowing friends, his boss showed him a picture. It was like, "Oh, look at this. I got a picture of Greg Rutherford." And he was like, "That's not Greg Rutherford. That's Marcus Bateman."
The better of the Team GB athletes.
That was my 15 minutes of fame.
That's good. I think my most exciting moment at the Olympic Games and meeting someone was I was eating dinner in the food court, and my teammates were like, "Usain Bolt's right behind you," and I was so starstruck, like, what? And he left the food court because he was getting a bit, people were starting to crowd him, so he left. And then my friend and I were like, "Right, we need to go back to our room or something." We were like, "Should we just have a scout, see if we can see him around?" And then we noticed that he'd come out the food court and, was quite far away. And we were like, "Shall we run after him and see if we get a picture?" Because everyone had been crowding him in the food court. So he literally left to get away from everyone. We're like, "Let's go." So we sort of scurried, and I always say, I chased Usain Bolt and I managed to catch him up. Gave him a little tap. He just didn't feel anything, because I'm only 5'3", so I'm tiny, and I was scared. So he didn't move, and then my friend was like, "Do it again." I was like, "No, that's so embarrassing. Usain Bolt is just like a blank to me." So I sort of tapped again, and then he sort of looked down at me and was like, "Oh, hi." And my friend and I were like, "Can we have a picture with you, please?" And his friend was like, "Yeah, of course, get in." And we had a picture, and he's like, "What sport do you do?" We were like, "Synchronized swimming." He's like, "Oh, good luck, girls." And we were like, "Oh, good luck, Usain Bolt." He's like, "Okay, cool, see you later." And when we text our friends and the rest of the team the picture, like, "Look who we've just been hanging out with," they're like, "No way." That was quite an exciting time to meet Usain Bolt.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys very much. I'll open the floor to some questions.
Okay, I'll go first. Thank you for talking to us tonight, guys. I just have a quick question. Obviously, you both compete in teams, and I wondered if there was anything, what would you kind of call your non-negotiables for your teammates and the people around you in terms of behaviour and kind of attitude?
Yeah, for me, the non-negotiables would be consistency. So you can't just rock up and be a star one day and then just not turn up the next day. You have to commit day in, day out, and for that Olympiad, so 4 years. So that's a big one for me, is consistency. Trust. You have to trust each other. So if you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And I know that if he says he's going to do it, then I trust that he's going to do it. And if that trust breaks down, then that's a no-go for us and the crew. And just be honest. Just be honest. If anyone messes up, or kind of everyone makes mistakes, and you're there to support each other. So that would be my non-negotiables.
Yeah, I think the same. I think you're all working really, really hard, so you want to be trusting that they're all putting the same effort in. And sometimes we would have to do individual training that would be beneficial to the team. So, but it wasn't, the coach wouldn't be there. So they'd say, each of you, for different reasons, you've got to work on this, you've got to work on this. But, you know, Saturday afternoon, you need to spend 1 hour doing it. And you want to trust that all your teammates are doing it, because you want the best for the team, I guess. So pretty much exactly what Marcus said. Maybe I would just add in attitude as well. You know, I'd be with the girls 10 hours a day. So if you've got someone always moaning and negative all the time, that wears off onto the other team members. So I think it's important, after a while, people will get quite knocked off with that. So after a while, we all have bad days and things, and that's fine. But if someone is always negative, or, you know, not showing motivation and stuff, that after a while you're kind of like, don't be here. Then, you know, there are other girls that want to be here and stuff, even if they've got the skill level. You want the attitude to be positive and good most of the time anyway, so that the feeling's good within the team.
That's great. Thank you both.
Okay.
You want me to go, Fernando? Yeah, okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. It's great to have you both on. My question is about the current Olympics. So obviously it's a bit of a, still up in the air really, Tokyo. And as two athletes that have done an Olympic cycle, spending 4 years preparing, I was just wondering if you could maybe put yourself in their shoes and maybe use your own experiences and share how you think those athletes are going right now, and how, if you were preparing for Tokyo, how you would be coping, having the Olympics suspended, you know, delayed for a year, and then now still really not knowing if it's going to go ahead. Yeah, how would you guys go, and how do you think, you know, what can you do to keep focused?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I know a lot of the guys that are training, and it's tough, especially in COVID, where they have to train in bubbles, so they're like their household bubbles. So if they live with other rowers, then they can go out in the water and train with those guys. It is tough. I'd probably retire. I'll be like, no, I'm done. But for the guys that want to keep on going, I know Helen Glover, she's come out and done the opposite. She retired after Rio, and now Tokyo's given her a bit of a leeway, even though she's got 3 kids. Like, I don't know what she's thinking, but she's like, right, I want to go for another one, and let's go to Tokyo because it's delayed. So for her, it's worked out. But I think just to be in a holding pattern and just doing the training for the sake of doing the training, without the knowledge of whether it's going to happen or not, it'll be heartbreaking if it didn't happen. I think they have to somehow, some way make it happen, but it won't be the same experience as London or Rio or Beijing. So it'll be a shame. It'll be a shame, whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, I agree. We've got 2 girls that should be competing for Tokyo, and so they're fortunate enough they can still have the pool time during COVID times because they're elite athletes. But yeah, when you're, you know, every hour of training seems like quite a long time. So a whole year is actually quite a long time to say it can't happen this year, but next year, a whole year of training at the level you are, especially if maybe you wanted to retire after, that's quite mentally quite hard to get your head around, I think, to think, right, we've got to keep pushing for another year. And again, now knowing that, who knows, the Olympic experience will not probably be what we experienced with the buzz of the village, And the interaction, like say, one of the things I love about the sport is interacting with different athletes from all around the world, where that won't be the case. But I think as an athlete, it's this is really where you've got to dig deep, and this is a curveball that none of them were expecting. So I feel for them, because I couldn't imagine if I was about to come to 2012 and they said it's not going to happen, because you give up so much of your life for that moment. So I think all athletes and ones who've been to Olympics will be feeling for them right now, because we can only imagine actually how tough and mentally it is. So like Marcus said, let's just hope that in some way or form they can compete and show all their hard work, because it takes a lot of hard work to be able to be picked. And I think as well, unfortunately, some people within a year you could get injured, so you might have made last year, but for some reason a whole year is a long time. Someone could overtake you, or you get injured, and for that reason it means that dream might not happen. For those sort of reasons, it adds in a lot more now, different elements, I think, to it. So it's definitely tough for them.
Does Fernando know he's got his hand up?
You got a question, Fernando?
Are you there?
Yes, I've got it. Sorry, this is.
He's alive.
Yeah, of course. So it's been amazing tonight. That's really good. Thank you very much, both. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions actually. So for you both. So before you got called to represent Great Britain, have you ever thought, like, that's it, I'm going to give up, I'm going to stop this? If yes or no, why?
Yeah, for me, it was that stage of at the very start, where I left university. So I went from Bath University, moved down to Henley, was in digs with 3 other rowers. You're working all hours, you're training all hours. It was brutal, and I was like, Dad, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And it was tough, and you just take day by day, and you kind of get through it. And I gave it a shot, and luckily it kind of worked out. But I don't know if I performed at those World Championships, my first World Championships, which was in Dorney in 2006. If I didn't have made the final then, I wouldn't have gotten funding, and then I probably wouldn't have carried on. So it was small margins, but it's tough to start out with, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think, I think, I remember one time when, talking about early years, when I was 14, and I found my friends were all sort of like meeting up and doing other things, and I was sort of always synchronized swimming. And I think 14, 15 is, I remember thinking, oh, I want to join in with my friends, is this, I don't want to go training every night. My friends seem to be having fun. And I think that time is a real sort of like difficult time as a child to be not involved with when everyone's talking about things at school when you're missing out. But then I think that's the only time when I thought, oh, do I want to do this? But I did carry on. And I look back now and I'm glad I didn't sort of just give up because I wanted to go and hang out with my friends. I'm glad I really thought about it and thought, no, I love synchro, I want to keep going. But I think when I was full-time for the 5 years leading up to the Olympics, I never seriously ever thought I wanted to give up. But there were definitely days when I thought, this is so tough. When my alarm clock would go off sometimes at 6 a.m, I used to think, how can I can't do this again. Like this is really tough. And you definitely really had to sort of lean on your teammates and remember the big goal of why you're doing it, because day in, day out training can be really hard. And when I started in 2007, the Olympics was like 5 years away. So that goal just didn't really seem out, a bit too out of reach. So yeah, there were definitely days where I thought, gosh, why am I doing this? This is really tough.